Welcome to episode 4 of Civil War Breakfast Club. I am your co-host Mary, and joining me is my co-host Darren.
Hello, Mary.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's your mood?
Good.
Good. I'm in a great mood. I'm in a fantastic mood. This is the best time of the year. It's September. There's a chill in the air.
Yeah.
There is pumpkin beer to be had, and of course, this is the beginning of the NFL, which we all know stands for New England Football League, and that all starts on Sunday as the Patriots begin their banner number 7 climb in front of a bunch of empty stadiums. But we will look forward to it. You know why? Because God damn it, we got football coming.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I am like, summer is baseball, but baseball this year was just weird for me. But football, I am ready to go. And like, obviously, we've got our football jerseys on tonight for this episode. So
I don't know what this baseball you speak of is. But is that his new sport?
So yes, those watching the video can see that I am wearing a Packers jersey, and Darren is wearing New England Patriots jersey.
Chips.
Yeah. But I have a New England Patriots hat on because, yes, I cheer for both teams.
I was going to say, well, that number 12 you have, that is the funniest looking Tom Brady jersey I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, his name is spelled wrong, too. It's spelled Rogers.
Rogers? Again, I never heard of her.
Darren, I still have my quarterback. Oh.
Anyways. Thanks for bringing that up. Way to kill it. Again, now my mood is bad. Thank you so much. Hey, it's okay. We got Cam Newton now. Whatever, who knows? But anyway, football is here. Yeah. It is a great time of the year. And it's been a good week. We had a good episode 3 podcast, speaking of Atlanta.
Yep.
And had some great reviews on that. We kicked off the YouTube channel, yep, which came out really, really good. The chief engineer, Mary Fincher, the Queen of the North of Ontario, puts that whole thing together. And I think it's coming up pretty well. And everybody who's signing on and following us on Twitter and Facebook and Insta, much appreciated. It's a lot of fun doing this. I will say it's definitely something I look forward to during the week.
Yeah, me too.
And it's something that we get to hang out, we get to talk whatever. We get to talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and tonight we are talking football, which the one thing about the jerseys we're wearing, which Darren brought up just before we started recording, I'm like, oh, let's go record and talk about that, is like the fact that the Packers did beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Wow, look at you go tonight.
You told me that.
Yeah, I did. But that was back when the earth was cooling 100 years ago, though. So that's the Patriots have, I think they've rebounded since. They seem to have won a couple of games along the way. I think they've won 6 Super Bowls. Actually, they've won 6, but I think the Packers have won 4. So I think 6 is greater than 4. You're the math experts. You tell me. You're never living that down, by the way.
A little bit of a recall to episode 2.
You would never live in that one down.
I said it was like, what was it, a 46% casualty rate? And it was like 72 or something.
Even the ghost of McClellan was like, that girl doesn't know how to count.
I had McClellan's math teacher.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. McClellan's School of Mathematics.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But anyway, like I said, football season's here. So, we got to thinking, which is always a dangerous thing, about the potential of comparing some of our hero generals and not so hero generals, and maybe drawing a little correlation to the NFL teams of today and their overall history to see what we can come up with.
Yeah.
And we didn't really prepare this, admittedly, so we're going to kind of wing this. We're going to see how much Mare knows about football, which I think she knows more than I do.
I doubt it.
But we're gonna have some fun with this. Hopefully, you play along with it. I will say, any Jet fans, I apologize in advance because I fucking hate the Jets, and we're gonna have fun with them today. Yeah. And we'll have some fun with some other teams as well. I think I think this will come across pretty well.
Yeah. I think before we get started, though, there's 2 birthdays to mention, one of which is today and the other is in a few weeks, and it has to do with the mugs we are drinking out of tonight. So you can go first, Darren, with yours.
Today is 192nd birthday of Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, who would still be alive today if he wasn't shot in Petersburg, I believe, because he was that good. This is a coffee mug from Joshua's Tavern up in beautiful Brunswick, Maine, and I am drinking Shipyard Ale Chamberlain IPA, which you can only get in Maine. So that's what I got. What about you?
I have General John Reynolds, also born in September. So that's why I picked him, because I don't have a Chamberlain mug. I'm not cool like Darren yet.
No one is. Nobody is.
But in honor of Chamberlain, I am drinking a Session New England IPA, and it's also in honor of my boy OO, because it's called Moonlight on Chrome.
You like OO Howard? I know that.
Yeah, totally.
God.
I was actually listening to an audiobook today called Fierce Glory, which is about the Battle of Antietam. And I'm listening to the audio, obviously listening, so it's an audiobook. So the narrator mentions like Howard's name, and I totally started fangirling. It's a good thing I was on my own.
Hey, we talked about Howard. I'm sure Howard, I'm going to guess he probably shows up at some point here this evening, I think, like he always does. He probably will. But yeah, so it's been a great week, and episode 4 is, can you believe this is the 4th episode already?
Yeah.
This is unbelievable.
I know.
It's moving right along. Like we say, appreciate anybody who takes the time to watch this. We do appreciate it. It's a lot of fun to do this. So hopefully you enjoy it as well.
We love the community on Twitter as well. Like, it's kind of fun on there. It's everybody on there getting some good discussions going, lots of good laughs and all that. So it's really great to see that happening. We really appreciate all of you.
Now, I do have to point out, though, that hat doesn't look like a Packers hat that you're wearing.
Not a Packers hat.
That looks familiar.
I already said it was a New England hat.
I know. I know it was a New England hat. So you're coming around. You're a Pats fan, sort of.
Sort of.
You're getting there.
You would have died tonight if I had shown up. I told him earlier, like, yeah, I'm going to wear my Packers jersey. You would have died if I had shown up in a New England jersey.
Oh God, yeah, that would have been awesome. That would have been the podcast. That'd be just me dropping dead right here. That'd be it. Speaking of Chamberlain, go right down, up the spout, as they said back in the day. But you're coming along. You're good. You're a Pats fan and a Packers fan, which is fantastic. So, but yeah. So let's kind of get rolling with this, because I think it's a fun exercise. So we're gonna have some fun and put you on the spot a little bit. So here's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna play a little game show here, where I'm going to say a general, and you're going to tell me what NFL team you think they best correspond or line up to. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to start with one of your favorites, Confederate General Braxton Bragg. Because I know how much you love him.
And he has a dog named Braxy now, thanks to our Facebook Live on
Yes. There you go. Braxy, here you go.
Braxton Bragg. Well, so it's got to be a team that's pretty bad. There's a couple that come to mind, but I am going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals on this one.
I think you could not go wrong with any team from Ohio, to be honest.
No, I don't think
including Buckeyes, maybe. Michigan, that's another story. But let's talk about Braxton Bragg. So what about Braxton Bragg do you think would associate him with such a team?
Well, just like they have not won any Super Bowls at all. I mean, not that the saying that doesn't make a team not good, but I used to watch them play, and they were terrible. And just their sportsmanship too was, I remember seeing a couple of things and I'm like, well, that's a real dick move. Like, and I know that happens in all teams and all that, but you're looking at a team that has not really won any championships. They're just kind of, I think they're even below being mediocre.
Dick move, of course. You're paraphrasing the Hood Sherman letters again from last week.
Exactly.
So good call for a throwback. Yep. Well, let's take a look at Braxton Bragg, though. I mean, focus on the general. No, actually, I think most people can agree the Bengals, and maybe the Browns we can throw in there too. Talk about the steaming biohazard those teams are.
Yeah.
But Braxton, let's give Braxton his due first of all before we rip him down. Okay.
Yeah.
Graduates, goes to West Point.
Mm-hmm.
Class of 37,
I think
1837. So, okay.
Yeah.
He ultimately he goes to class. He goes to, if I remember correctly, he's in the same class with Early
mm-hmm.
and Sedgwick.
Yep.
And he graduates in the top 10. I think he graduated 5th in his class, I think, ultimately, right? So he ends up commanding the Army of Mississippi, which becomes the Army of Tennessee.
Yep. He's also a Mexican War veteran too.
Right? He fights in Mexico.
Yep.
But
I believe he fights under Zachary Taylor.
Zachary Taylor. Okay. So he ends up in the Civil War fighting in the West, as we mentioned before.
Mhm.
And I think he's known for the cut and run. As much as Howard gets ripped
Yeah.
for retreating for Chancellorsville, and he gets blamed for that,
Yeah.
I think Bragg gets blamed for a lot of it because he ended up cutting and running a whole bunch of times. He made Rosecrans look like a superstar, right?
Oh yeah.
He runs in 1862 Battle of Perryville,
Yep.
right? He Stones River around Christmas time. He runs again. Tullahoma, Rosecrans gets him again.
Yeah.
And then he ends up with Chattanooga. He has some success with Longstreet at Chickamauga, though.
Yeah.
Right?
There's Longstreet makes that breakthrough. But that's, the reason the breakthrough happens though is because Rosie F's up with an order that he gives to Wood, telling him to move his whole division over. But yeah, Bragg definitely, like, he fought more with his, and we'll talk about this in a few weeks when we talk about Chickamauga. He's going to fight more with his commanding officers than he is against the Union Army after Chickamauga.
Right. Well, but Chattanooga, he gets routed at Chattanooga.
Oh yeah.
On November 25th, which is the greatest day in American history.
It is, actually.
The most important date ever, okay? Just because. And he ends up obviously kind of getting the reputation of basically being cutting and running. But we talked before about how some of these Confederate generals never lose their jobs. If you look at Beauregard, he basically gets ostracized for running on Corinth for that one time, right? Bragg, I mean, he makes Robert Milroy look like a hero as far as staying ground, right?
He does. And he eventually, he tries to, I think he does this whole thing where he tries to resign, and then Davis is like, no. But then there was the whole thing, like, you suck, you need to go petition that happened after Chickamauga.
But I think when you and there's an irony. There's a Fort Bragg, I guess. I don't quite get that.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about taking it away. Can't take emails. Okay, we're just basically talking about the fact that he gets named for it. But when you look at the overall history, you have to look at the Browns or the Bengals.
Yes.
I like your Bengals pick. I do. I'm thinking Browns too. Okay, just because the Cleveland Browns in the 2000s, which is like what, 20 years?
Yeah.
Right? They've won 99 games in the entire 2 decades. 99. Just out of comparison, okay? My team and America's team, the New England Patriots, have won 249 games in that same period of time. 249 to 99. Wow. I mean, you would think they had an 0-16 season in there. The year before, 2017, they went 0-16, which is hard to do. It really is. Coming off of 2016, you know what their record was in 2016?
No, but I know they won.
They won once.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
They won one game in 2 years, which is one more game than you did. So think about it. So you can't go wrong comparing Bragg, I think, personally, to we'll call it the whole state of Ohio. We'll call it Ohio. Okay, we'll just call it Ohio. So Braxton Bragg is the state of Ohio.
And we just lost every single Ohio.
But you know what, though? We just picked up a bunch of Michigan votes. That's cool. And Pennsylvania votes, too, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
Hey, Buckeyes are pretty good, but their payroll is higher than the Bengals and Browns. So a little bit, keep that in mind.
No, I agree with you picking the Browns for Bragg, too. And, believe me, they did flash in my mind, but I'm like, I think I'm going to go for the Bengals.
You can't go wrong, though. I mean, the Bengals, to the Bengals' credit, though, let's give Bragg credit for Chickamauga.
Yep.
Let's just give him credit. I mean, he was there, so we'll give him credit. The Bengals did go to the Super Bowl twice.
Yes, and they
So
lost.
they have made, they lost the 49ers, but they did make it. So I'm of the belief that it does mean something to get there.
Oh, it does, for sure.
Even if you lose, something to get there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty good comparison. I think you were right by staying in the state of Ohio, and you couldn't have gone wrong either way. So you threw a big dart at the Buckeye State, and you couldn't have gone wrong. And like brag, I can't light the cigar. I'm afraid lit.
I think it's your turn now. Okay. As Darren gets his cigar lit there.
Yeah, this thing is a user error, probably. Perfect.
Yep. Oh, I'm not shocked. That would be a user error. Don't burn your fucking jersey.
Joke about that. Just got this jersey.
Okay.
All right. So hit me. What do you got?
Your general is William Tecumseh Sherman.
Oh, what a surprise. I thought you were going to go Howard there, but you know what?
Yeah.
Sherman. I think there's one choice with Sherman, don't you? I think it's the New England Patriots. I think it's the New England Patriots. I think it is. I mean, you look at the fact, just look at the reputation. I think this really kind of, not so much the Patriots. I think it's more of a comparison to their coach, Bill Belichick.
Mm-hmm, yeah, because he's very against the media, right? Like
he's against the media. But just looking at it, I mean, what are some of the strengths of Sherman that maybe if you think about a strong leader? Obviously he's ruthless, right? Doesn't give a shit what you think. He hates the media. He had that fantastic quote, and any football fan knows how much Bill Belichick hates the media. He had that quote about, if I had my choice, I would kill all the reporters, but they'd be reporting from hell before breakfast, which is a fantastic quote from him, and I think he's overall right. What else? Oh, I don't think anybody in Atlanta likes either of them. All right.
Who can blame them?
I mean, let's be honest. We talked about Atlanta last week.
Yeah.
The New England Patriots and William, when it comes to Sherman, are the most two hated things probably in Georgia. I think you got to look at that. I think you also got to look at some of the flaws of Sherman, though, because obviously Belichick has taken his hits too.
Mm-hmm.
Belichick, obviously, he had the Spygate thing, and he had some stuff that he did that was probably wrong, that I don't care about. That's all overblown, but that's another story, to say the least. But, Sherman also had Chickasaw Bluff, right?
Yeah.
He also, he had some mistakes, and we're not going to talk about his politics or any of that.
No.
But 1863 at the Vicksburg campaign, he did get his ass handed to him.
Yeah, and the same, he would get a little bit too, I think, just confident at times. And you saw that that's pretty much what happens at Chickasaw Bluffs. Chickasaw Bluffs was everything to do with how to, reading maps. He'd read the map wrong. And similar things going to happen to him in November 1863 at Missionary Ridge, where he's going to read the map wrong and not be in the right place at all.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, he doesn't really talk about that in his memoirs too much. It's kind of glazes over it. And I do see and I'm not okay, I'm totally going to razz on you, but New England fans don't talk about the mistakes that Belichick made.
I don't know what you're speaking of, no.
Silence. He's just staring at me.
I'm just bewildered at such a foolish comment, to be honest. No, I think I understand that most people outside of this area where I live in don't like him. I think a lot of it's the fact that he won so much, and he's also arrogant, and there's a lot of, but that's another thing too. But there's a bunch of other parallels you can make with Sherman and Belichick, though, and so this is more Belichick than the Patriots, whatever. Okay, but Bill Belichick has won more Super Bowls than anybody. He's got 6 as a coach. He's got 2 more as an assistant. So he's got a lot of bling, right?
Yeah.
So what do we call?
He's like that.
What do we call Bill? What do we call Sherman? What's our
Uncle
nickname for Sherman?
Uncle
Blingy, right? So we talk about that, and we mentioned this a little bit in our Facebook Live the other day. Is Sherman? He was out in Northern California where the girls are warm, to quote that song, years ago, and he was in 1849. He found himself out where the gold rush was, and he had what's that word I couldn't say last week? Metallurgy.
Metallurgy.
Metallurgy. He studied metallurgy at West Point. And so when they found gold, what they thought was gold in the San Francisco area, they came to him to document that it was gold. And he was the first to admit and discover that it was actually gold. So he was the one who said, yep, it's gold. So since gold associates with jewelry and Belichick associates with jewelry, I think there's also a parallel
Yes.
with that. Right?
Uncle Blingy.
Uncle Blingy. Now we have Coach Blingy.
Yeah.
Uncle Blingy now. What else? I know another one. For a lot of Sherman's career, he was kind of the undershadow, the understudy to who? To Grant, right?
Yes.
I mean, right from all the way through it to Shiloh and all through Atlanta, he was kind of the Grant was the guy, and Sherman was kind of his underling in different ways. So you could also draw a parallel that Bill Belichick spent most of his career under the tutelage of Bill Parcells, right?
Yep.
Not to associate Parcells with Grant, but you could draw a parallel from a lot of his early career that he was under. He got a lot of his thunder was stolen by Parcells, the way a lot of Sherman's thunder was taken from Grant, right?
Yep.
And going early, the failings of Chickasaw compared to Sherman, you got to look at those early Belichick years in Cleveland too, which actually he should get a lot more credit for that. That team moved halfway through, and he had something going there, and they would have been really, really good if he stayed there. So I think there's a lot of parallels to that. Sherman was also the first superintendent at LSU.
Yep.
Who was the current national champion of football.
Yep, he was.
That's pretty cool, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot of and he, you look at all the battles he fought. Fort Henry, Fort Donelson, Shiloh, Vicksburg, Chattanooga, Battle of Schrute Farm. You don't follow The Office, do you?
No, I don't.
Then you totally missed that joke.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of there's a lot of ways you can parallel. So I think that the Patriots best line up with General Sherman. Just I think for a lot of different reasons. I think that's the obvious comparison. So
yeah, I thought of I agree with you. I thought of another one as you were talking about kind of the mentorship thing. But another way, in some ways, Belichick is kind of like Grant too, and Brady could be like Sherman. Like there's that kind of the teamwork going on, right? The other thing with that is Grant and Sherman eventually did have a bit of a falling out, just like Belichick and Brady sort of did. And that happened.
And also Parcells and Belichick had a falling out too.
Yep. And that happened. Sherman and Grant's falling out happened when Grant was president. And Grant gave him he gave Sherman certain powers as the military commander. But then he suddenly took them away because John Rawlins did not want him to have those powers. And Rawlins at the time was dying from, I believe it was tuberculosis. And Grant just said, well, I have to do this for him. And Sherman was just like, but this is what we'd always wanted. It means the government's interfering less with what we're doing. And Grant just said, I can't do it. And Sherman just felt like it was a huge betrayal.
Well, I think Sherman felt what he was doing was right all along too.
Yeah.
When they did their March to the Sea, and we'll do a whole episode on that, there was no communication between him and Washington.
No.
He just did it.
Yep.
And I think even if there was communication, he would have been like, I don't give a shit what you say. I know what I'm doing. This is the way I'm going to do it. And I think, and I know for a fact that some of the sports books I've read that Belichick is a huge fan of Sherman. And I think, I think a lot of that stuff I think kind of spills over. The media thing definitely does, because no one hates the media more than Belichick does. I think that's probably something that we can probably agree on. I think.
Yeah. No, I think you made a very solid choice with that one.
With your Pats hat and your fake Tom Brady shirt you're wearing right now.
Next time I'll be wearing a Patriots jersey.
Oh my God, that'd be awesome. That would be absolutely fantastic. That'll be I'll watch that one 1,000 times. You got the 12. You're almost there. Although I think Brady's not there anymore. I know, but it's give me time. Give me time. All right, my turn, right?
Yep.
Nice. Making it easy for you. I'm gonna give you a hard one. Okay.
Okay.
How about we go with David Farragut?
Ooh, representing the Navy.
Let's go to the Navy a little bit. Let's jump on the water a little
Yeah,
bit. Since we we're talking Vicksburg a little bit a second ago,
Yep.
maybe think of the Navy. Let's talk about David Farragut.
Yep.
Who do you think lines up best with David Farragut?
I'm gonna go with Packers.
Oh, interesting.
Packers.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about Farragut a little bit.
Yeah. Oh,
So what
Farragut. He's one of the older, officers in the Civil War. I believe I think he even fought. He was involved in the War of 1812. But he was
he was born in 1801. He'd be like 11.
Yeah,
Wouldn't he?
I think he was with his dad.
I mean, you're
or
the
something
math
like that.
expert. You
I
tell
think
me.
I think he was with his dad. There's something about that I remember reading in
His
Vicksburg.
father might have fought that. You know what?
No.
All right, sure.
No,
fought
he
in
was young.
1812
Like he was a
on
kid, but he was like with his dad during it. Oh God, I hope I didn't get that wrong.
that. There you go. That would be Civil War Breakfast Club at gmail.com.
Yes.
Send your complaints right there. Attention, Mary. All right. So Farragut, again, he's born in 1801,
Yep.
and he was born in Tennessee. And he did serve in the Mexican War, though.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yep.
And he fought under Matthew Perry, not the guy from Friends, who you're probably thinking of, but another guy.
Was that Commodore Perry? No.
No, a different guy.
Look at me getting things wrong tonight.
He's Commodore Perry. He's the guy who was the Mount Everest guy. Is that him?
Yeah, I think
I'm
so.
just guy. I have no.
I don't know. I feel like I'm getting my facts wrong tonight.
Yeah, no, it's okay. But a guy from Tennessee, he did stay with the Union.
Wait. Hey, I just looked it up. Battles and Wars. War of 1812. USS Essex versus HMS Alert. Action off Charles Island.
With the Doogie Howser of the military, he was like 10 years old.
Yep.
All right, well, I stand corrected.
Yep.
Oh my God, Mary.
He was on the USS Essex. I think that's the ship his dad was on.
So he was probably riding with us. Hey, pretty cool for him.
Yeah. No, I just remember that from a book I read about.
So when I was 10 years, when I was 10 years old, I was in the SS Toyota going with my father to watch him buy beer. So that's what I was doing. When I was 10 years old. So I guess Farragut was having a little better career than I was.
Well, it was through the influence of his foster father. He was commissioned a midshipman in the United States Navy on December 17th, 1810 at the age of 9.
Wow.
He was a prize master by age 12, and Farragut fought in the War of 1812, serving under Captain Porter, his foster father. So Farragut is actually, we're digressing a bit here. So Admiral David Dixon Porter is Farragut's.
This is stepbrother, right?
Yeah,
or
his
half-brother?
foster brother.
Okay.
Admiral Farragut was raised by David Dixon Porter's father.
Interesting.
Foster father.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was like the.
So they're brothers, like they're foster brothers, basically.
All right. So I guess he did fight. Okay. Well, you got me there, Fincher. Good job. I never would have thought that. Yep. You know, that's hey, get him started.
I remember reading it in Miller's book about Vicksburg and just thinking like, oh my God, that's so young. Like,
see, I thought that I knew he had a father in it. I didn't think he was on. I can't imagine he was actually fighting though. He was probably just there with his father.
He was a midshipman. He was like, whatever commission in the Navy.
No.
I don't know. Okay. Anyway, either way, he's in the War of 1812.
Okay, so he ends up in the Civil War. He's older at that point.
Yeah.
So he's about 61, 62 years old. He has that great success at the beginning of the Mississippi Vicksburg campaign. He captures New Orleans. He participated with Nathaniel Banks from
Massachusetts.
Waltham, Massachusetts, at the siege at Port Hudson. So he has some success. He has that. He takes out that final base at Mobile Bay in the Gulf of Mexico, and he has a fantastic quote when they're sailing through, and they say, Admiral, there's too many landmines and too many torpedoes for us to sail through. And what does he say?
Damn the torpedoes.
Damn the torpedoes.
Yep.
That's a great quote.
It is. Yeah.
And then he was the first officer to be named a full admiral.
Yes, which is
in the United States Navy.
Which is why I chose him for the one of the reasons I chose him for the Packers is because the Packers were the first NFL team to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, well, good thinking on you. That's a good correlation though, because the Packers one of the older teams, and he
Yep.
was one of the older generals.
Why I went with it.
Success. I mean, I don't think Farragut had any real. I guess if you're looking for a bad moments, you could say that he kind of fell on himself at the beginning of the Vicksburg campaign. He couldn't at the very first of the 87 battles of the Battle of Vicksburg, trying to take that city. He retreated. And he tried to sail out of the Mississippi, and they said, no, get your ass back. Yeah. You're not leaving. So he stuck around. He is the same age as Aaron Rodgers now, I think, right? So I guess that's a good correlation. They're both about 200 years old.
Thanks. Aaron Rodgers younger than me.
Oh, jeez. All right, well, geez, I'm doing good for you tonight. But I think Rodgers might be the oldest quarterback in the NFL right now, right? No, besides Brady.
No, Brady.
But he's dead.
Well,
Brady is dead to me, so it doesn't count.
Okay, Brady,
doesn't count.
We don't talk about he who must
no,
not be
no,
named.
No.
I think Drew Brees might be a little older than Rodgers.
He probably is, because he was at Purdue and okay. So that's probably right. Yeah. Okay, but he's definitely one of the older ones. So if you're looking at the field general of the Packers is Aaron Rodgers.
Yep, and he's not doing as well. Like I think Farragut's, his career kind of got a little bit shaky, just like Rodgers has been lately. Like Rodgers had that injury a few years ago, but still like pretty solid player. I think Farragut, in some ways, he's maybe a little bit overrated, but I think he's got talent just like Rodgers does. And he was able to help the Civil War get victories like at Vicksburg and all that.
Well, I think, you know what, as I think about this, I like the Packers pick. I like this because, he had success going back to the War of 1812.
Yep.
He probably fought in the Revolutionary War somehow if he was even born, probably. But he had success early in life. The Packers have been going since 1919.
1919, yep.
So they started playing football 5 years after Joshua Chamberlain died.
Oh, my God.
Isn't that crazy?
That's mind-blowing.
Wow. So, yeah, actually think about it. Actually, Civil War was not that long ago. I'm telling you, all times. It was not that long ago. So, they've since 1919 they've been playing. They had 13 NFL titles. Most of them in the 30s and the 60s. Yep. 4 Super Bowl titles. Their most recent one beating the lovable Pittsburgh Steelers, which I very much enjoyed that one. I was a Pittsburgh fan. I mean, the Packer fan that night. I'll promise you that one.
I hate the Steelers.
No one likes the Steelers, for God's sake. Steelers, please. But I think I think that's a good correlation because he's an older guy. He could criticize for being old, kind of like maybe Winfield Scott was, although he wasn't that old. But he was an older guy. People questioned. Porter actually kind of took some shots at him too at the beginning of that Vicksburg campaign, thinking he was going to maybe mail in a little bit and try to take over that position.
Yeah.
Which makes you think about the family history about, how awkward that Christmas must have been.
Yeah, well, Porter and Farragut, like Miller in his book about Vicksburg, that he talks quite a bit about them, and he talks that they were both, like, he lays it out, and he says they were both really fucking arrogant.
I think, I think you have to be, though. I mean, if you're getting in the military at that young of an age, and you grow up and your father is who he was, and you have such a long, distinguished career, and they come to you and they say, we need you to help us take this Mississippi. Yeah. I mean, he's probably thinking, well, here we go. Now I'm back, know. So I can see that. I don't think the Packers are arrogant, though.
No,
they're
not.
I mean, they're from, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And,
nice.
By the way,
Wisconsin's like Canada Junior.
You picked the Packers because of Jen, didn't you?
Yeah.
This is a little homage to her, isn't it? This is a little throw to her. Okay, I see what you're up to.
Packers.
She does like the Packers.
She used to be a Bears fan.
Oh, okay. Well, but I think. Oh, maybe. But I think it's a good correlation because he's like we said, he's an older guy. Mm-hmm. He's prestigious. I don't think anyone really hates Farragut. Like going back to Bragg, I don't think he has a bad reputation. He's got a good reputation.
No, he's got a good reputation, like Rodgers. The other reason too I picked him is because there's this one picture of Farragut that he's just kind of standing there with his arms crossed, and it's actually one of my favorite pictures of a Civil War officer. And there's moments that I just think I just thought of that picture now, and I'm like, well, that's kind of like Rogers. Rogers has a very commanding presence when he's on the field, and I think that's how Farragut was.
The look on Farragut's face in that picture is awesome, though.
I know.
I think I tweeted. He looks like he just found $20 on the floor, stuck in his pocket, and hope no one saw him.
Yeah.
He has that ate the canary look. But yeah. I like your Packers pick, Mary. I think that's a good one. I wasn't skeptical, but I was curious where you were going with that. I will admit that was pretty solid. That was pretty good. So, all right. So Packers or David Farragut. I guess I didn't see that coming at all. That's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So so what's next?
Pope.
John Pope?
Yep. No, Pope John Paul II.
Oh, that'd be the Saints then.
We're taking it to Catholicism now.
Oh, okay. It's John Pope, the miscreant Pope. Oh, you know what though? We talked about him a couple of weeks ago in our second Manassas campaign.
Yeah, we did. He's a bastard.
And so he was a guy who, arrogant, thought he was the man. Mm-hmm. Came east. He had that quote about how he's used to seeing the backs of the Confederate soldiers.
Yeah. And
then he came out here and he tried to do what he could out here, I mean the East, and he completely pissed down his own leg. There is only one team that can correspond to John Pope, and that is the New York freaking Jets. No question. There is not. This is a slam dunk, not even a close. You want to talk about a do-nothing, arrogant franchise? It's the New York Jets. It is absolutely the New York Jets. So, and I make no apologies for that. So, John Pope. Let's go back. Let's dust off the John Pope notes from 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. John Pope comes east with the Army of Virginia, which has been newly formed.
But he has some success out west.
Yeah,
right?
he does. But he said he took 5,000 prisoners at Island Number 10. I think it was Island Number 10, right?
Island Number 10.
And then apparently he had the same math teacher as McClellan and myself, as well as Alan Pinkerton had, and he inflated those numbers.
Ooh, Pinkerton.
Yeah, to 7,000. Yeah. Well, Pinkerton was basically giving McClellan the numbers, and then McClellan was like, increase them by 5%.
Well, Halleck was too. Halleck was giving those numbers too.
Increase it by 5%.
And shall I say, Lincoln? He also was giving those numbers too, so that's okay. But so yeah. Pope. Let's rehash on John Pope, okay? Because we talked about him a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
West Point, graduates middle of his class. Mm-hmm. He goes to Mexico.
Yes.
Does pretty well with that. Ends up getting the commander of the Army of the Mississippi, yep. Which become the Army of the Tennessee eventually. He basically does some good things though. I mean, he certainly he captures New Madrid, 1862. Yep. He does pretty well with that. To your point, he's part of that expedition that stops Island Number 10.
Yep.
I'm not sure if Island Number 9 was better. Island Number 10 was the one he stopped at. Imagine being named Island Number 10.
Yeah, where is that?
That's not as good as Rough and Ready though.
Rough and Ready cheerleaders. If you haven't yet listened to episode 3, you really need to.
Somewhere there's a prom queen from Rough and Ready High School who's had a scarred life. But so he...
It sounds like a place of exile. It's where bad Civil War generals get exiled to.
I bet you Hooker and Butterfield spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, Rough and Ready.
I bet you totally did. But so he captures Island Number 10. He's part of Andrew Foote's Navy. And he does that. He gets promoted to Major General, and he helps secure Corinth. And we talked about Beauregard.
Yep.
Beauregard does that masterful thing where he's a la Jamestown with Magruder. He has the fake cannon, sets the trees up slowly. And they say the hardest thing to do is to retreat in the face of the enemy, and that's exactly what he did. But they ultimately took Corinth, and he has a good reputation. Meanwhile, what's going on out east is McClellan is having his struggles on the peninsula. So he goes in that doghouse we talked about a couple weeks ago, and they bring in John Pope to save the day.
Because they think Lincoln thinks he's going to be way more aggressive.
Lincoln thinks he's going to be aggressive.
Yeah.
And not to rehash our second episode, but he gets his ass kicked in Manassas. he gets his ass kicked in Manassas. Okay. The ass of Manassas stands for ass kicked of John Pope in Manassas. Okay.
It's John Pope's ass.
John Pope's ass gets pounded, knocked away. And so he he basically he basically ends up getting sent all the way to Minnesota. Oh, this is hilarious. He ultimately ends up. You need to stop. He basically gets pushed all the way back to Minnesota. He gets to fight the Dakota Wars of the 1800s, 1862, and he basically disappears completely from the mainstream as far as the military goes, and he basically struggles. So he basically has a really bad reputation. Obviously, he had a little bit of success early, and here's where the Jets thing comes in. In all seriousness, okay, the New York Jets back in the day, they were one of the original AFC or the AFL teams in 1960. They came in and they did pretty well at the beginning. They were pretty competitive. And in 1969, in Super Bowl III, they had a really good game against the Baltimore Colts, not the Indianapolis Colts, the Baltimore Colts. And at the time was one of the biggest upsets in sports history. This is the famous Joe Namath guaranteed the win game. They win that game like 16-9 or something like that. But it was a big, big, big deal. And the New York Jets and their fans have been living off that ever since.
Yep.
1969, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, 1969 was the last time the New York Jets won the Super Bowl, and their fans think they're the combination of the Patriots, Cowboys, and 49ers. And ever since that year, they've had a couple of good years here and there, but nothing really good. They haven't been back to a Super Bowl since. They've been in that AFC East dungeon for the last 20 or so years, just getting pounded by the Patriots. And so that's kind of I think why I think the Jets will be the best correlation with them, primarily because they just had some success early. And I think a lot of the younger Jet fans now have been hearing from probably their fathers about how great the Jets have been. And I think like Pope, he's used to reading his own headlines, thinking they're better than they are, and they just don't know they're not good. They just don't know. It's very sad. To quote Arthur Fremantle, very, very sad.
Which does, I mean, just knowing you're not good, that's like Pope. Pope thought he was basically king shit of fuck mountain.
It's one thing if the what?
King shit of fuck mountain.
Look at that in the map. See what the hell that is. Sounds like a fun place to go camping. But if you look at the Browns or the Bengals, though, there are you're not good, and you don't even make apologies for it. You just know you're not. But the Jets don't think that. The Jets, like Pope, think they had some success, and for that reason on, they feel that they are almost better than they really are. So that's why I think Pope is a good correlation with that. I just think that just beating a dead horse here, he thought he was much better than he really was. He was kind of riding the coattails of a lot of these really good Western guys. And his biggest victory was probably, maybe say Corinth, when Beauregard just left. There was no real fighting on that. Yep. So he definitely had some, help with Andrew Foote on Island Number 10. So I think he was one of those guys who was riding a false bravado, false reputation. And I think that's the best correlate. I think that's a good one.
No, it's a really good one. I'm glad you got the Jets in there. No, I agree. Oh. I completely agree. Just with how they still think they're like a great team. And it's like, you haven't won in a really long time. But yeah, the Bengals and the Browns, no, they're bad. The Jets don't think that.
You just know it. You just know the situation that it's unfortunate. But I could have been convinced the Jets could have been bragged too. I could have gone there too. Yep. But I like yours. True. You're the right. I think you're made the right call on that one.
No, I think the Jets would work for Bragg too, because Bragg believed it was everybody else's fault. Like everybody else was out to get him, and he couldn't understand none of the losses or whatever were his fault at all. Especially after what happened at Chickamauga, he had them in Chattanooga, and he refused to listen to any of the reports he was getting. And then he thought everybody was out to get him, and he was more focused on the fact that he thought Polk was, trying to take over command, or Longstreet had been shipped from the east to stir shit up and possibly oust him from command. That's the only reason why Longstreet was there,
No, I think But Bragg, you know what though? The thing about Bragg is you kind of have to quasi give him Chickamauga though. You kind of do.
Yeah,
And it
in a
was,
way.
and I know it was Longstreet. I mean, I think Longstreet. I think we're both Longstreet fans.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a
think,
Longstreet fan. Yeah.
yeah, we are. But I think I think when you look at that, Bragg's success came later versus Pope's came earlier. And I
Yeah.
think that's why I think the Jets probably the best overall situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's no wrong answer with that.
No, I think you made a solid choice with it. I think
You
it was
know,
awesome.
I mean, any chance to make fun of the Jets, I'm going to take. So
Hey, yeah, exactly.
I'm not over some of the stuff they pulled with that Deflategate, by the way. I mean, yeah, the Spygate, that was ridiculous.
Deflategate.
No, Deflategate was a stupid cold, but the Jets was a Spygate. But I digress with that. Obviously, the therapy didn't work for that, clearing that out. But you know. So
You'll be okay.
Hey, I got like a bunch of Super Bowl champion hats I can live off of, so I'm cool. But I think there's pretty good. I think so far so good with this stuff. I think
Yeah, it's awesome. It's fun.
I think we probably have time for one more.
I think we do. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so let me think. Let me think of a tough one here. Let's go U.S. Grant.
Ooh.
So let's before we think about the team, we'll do this one together, okay?
Yeah.
What everybody knows Grant's story. Everyone,
Yep.
he's certainly Point Pleasant, Ohio, West Point. That he's one of the heroes of Mexico, riding the horse the way he did at the
Yes.
Battle of Monterey,
As they did in the Grant miniseries.
Oh, that miniseries was really, really good. And
when he lights that cigar.
Oh God, there was a long shower after that for me.
Yeah.
That cigar.
Oh, trust me. That was.
I mean, we don't know if that actually happened, but that scene when Lee is signing the papers and he just fires out the cigar.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Oh my God, that was
that was Civil War porn right there.
Oh, it was that could have been on many a .com besides history.com. I'll tell you, to say the least. I don't know any of those sites, so I don't know. But I hear there's some out there that you could probably go on to, but I think you get my point. But I think he certainly was close with James Longstreet at West Point. He was. He was somebody who I was always surprised he didn't. It was surprising to me that he was not given a cavalry position in the Army. That he was denied that.
He was like so into being like such a good equestrian that I'm surprised about that too. I never thought about that.
Yeah, because he was actually rejected for a position in the United States Cavalry out of West Point, and I never understood that. But he ended up in the infantry, and he had his. We'll tell his whole story, then we'll decide the team. So he had his whole situation where he didn't like the Army. He got into the drinking a little bit, got homesick. He had his, that's when he met Sherman, convinced him to come back in the Army. And then he comes back and he has that string of success in the West, which in every single step along the way, he was still kind of ostracized. He has Fort Henry and Fort Donelson, unconditional surrender grants. He has all that stuff. Halleck still doesn't like him. He's messing around with him. And then he goes on, in my opinion, the Vicksburg campaign, which is the greatest U.S. military campaign in history, in my opinion.
It is so interesting.
I mean, you want to talk about a trial and error situation when you've got guys coming from Washington to spy on you for drinking, like Charles Dana. You've got other generals who have basically put in place in case you fall down to take over.
Yeah.
He tries to go down the Mississippi. He tries to dig that DeSoto Trench around.
Oh, that was such a
which didn't work. Stuff. But all the stuff they tried, coming down the Yazoo River and in Deer Creek and all this, all the Farragut mistakes we mentioned earlier. He finally runs the blockade.
I love that, running the blockade.
Runs the blockade. Gets down there. And even that was screwed up because it was supposed to do it at night and it didn't work. They got down there and the whole place lit up like 4th of July. They saw him coming.
Yeah,
he lands
but then they start hugging
right
inside to get through.
He runs into that slave who says there's a place called Bruinsville. You can land your boats right there. He lands, has Sherman do his feint north. He has that brilliant campaign by that cavalry guy Grierson.
Yeah.
To go and wreak havoc and keep the army, in Mississippi, and keep everybody so they're away from Vicksburg for Grant to finally attack. Mm-hmm. So he finally pulls that off, and Vicksburg is that's just I know it wasn't as clean as you make it sound in 2020 hindsight, 150 whatever years later, 157 years later, but he could have easily gone back to Memphis and said, "The hell with this." Easily could have, and I don't think anybody would have blamed him. I think most people have expected him to, but he stuck with it. So he had his trials and errors. He ultimately ended up securing the West, Vicksburg. He comes east to help with the East, to put that pincer move on with Sherman to ultimately end the war, and has that fantastic cigar scene at Appomattox.
I love that.
With Joshua Chamberlain.
Yes.
Right. So what team do you think? What team?
Given all his successes. But
we already did the Patriots. So you can't pick the Patriots.
Yeah. Given all his successes, I think the 49ers.
Oh. Wow. The San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah,
that's a good call with them, because they're a team that's been successful really almost their entire time. Mm-hmm. They did have their struggles. They had an issue. They got in trouble with the salary cap. I think in the 80s they got in trouble for that.
Yeah.
But they responded. I think they've lost their last 2 Super Bowls though, but they've won 5.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty good call. I think they're definitely one of the blue bloods. Yeah. I think his presidency probably detracts a little bit from his military record.
Yeah, although he is getting a reevaluation of his presidency. In some ways, it's like if you read American Ulysses by Ronald C. White Jr., excellent book. There I go. There's my book enabling for the.
Oh, good. Another book to buy. Thank you, Mary.
His presidency was definitely not the best, but it was also not the worst. And Grant had a horribly corrupt cabinet, and Grant was one that just kind of, he was not the corrupt one. It was his cabinet, and he just didn't. He kind of turned a blind eye to it, like.
Yeah, I love Ulysses S. Grant. And, we were talking.
Me too.
We were talking last night about the Willard Hotel.
Yeah.
Right. And people don't realize. He used to go over there and he used to fire up cigars in the lobby of the Willard Hotel every single night, and people would come up to him and ask him for favors, and that's where the phrase lobbyist comes from.
Yeah.
And I love that story. The other story I like about Grant is when Robert E. Lee meets him in the White House after the war, and Robert E. Lee is Robert E. Lee, personality of a paper towel, but he but they're talking and negotiating about a contract for a railroad of all things, and Grant goes, General Lee, you and I have spent our careers tearing up railroads, so it's irony here today we're talking about building railroads. And Lee didn't even look up at him.
Wow.
It must have been a fun conversation.
Jeez. I don't think Lee had a sense of humor, actually.
You think? I would agree with you on that one.
No.
But why do you think 49ers? Let's hear your case. Make your case.
Well, just that, the championships, and they have struggled along the way, like Grant did. They're not the New England Patriots by any stretch. I think.
No, nobody is.
I think in some ways Sherman had a few more successes than Grant. I think he was more the Sherman was definitely the celebrity general, where the Patriots
more than Grant was?
I think so, yeah.
Really? Okay. I guess I'm just thinking about when Grant came to check into the Willard again, that when he signed his name, they realized who he was, and everyone wanted to see him. And it goes to that whole assassination thing with Lincoln. But I think you can't go wrong with that. I think you cannot tell the story of the Civil War without U.S. Grant.
No, you absolutely can't.
Right? And you cannot tell the story of the NFL without the San Francisco 49ers.
No.
You really can't. And they should have won last year.
Yeah,
Kansas City.
They're not as old as the Packers, but they've been around since 1946.
Niners, really?
I think so.
Okay. Actually, another correlation. You're probably right. I thought they were. No, you're right. They weren't an AFL team.
Oh, sorry, 1944.
See, so the other thing that you could talk about, you mentioned Grant Sherman. The correlation with Grant and Sherman, if you go back to the 80s, when you had Grant and Sherman, you had Coach Bill Walsh and quarterback Joe Montana.
Yep.
So kind of what you were saying before about Belichick and Brady,
Yep.
you can see the same correlation with Grant and Sherman to Bill Walsh and Joe Montana, which was it's probably the second best coach quarterback combination in NFL history. Right?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, I think you got a good call with that. I mean, we could do this all night and just pick all these teams, but I think it's a fun endeavor to do. When this does drop, it'll be Saturday morning, and it'll be NFL weekend, and we'll be doing our Facebook Live, special edition Facebook Live on Sunday at 10 a.m. instead of Saturday, because it's opening day.
Yep.
So
that was appropriate.
since nobody will be tailgating, freaking COVID,
you can come tailgate with us.
You can come tailgate with us because we'll have breakfast beers, and we can talk about teams. Anybody wants to talk about their team, if you want to challenge anything we've said, okay. If you're a Jet fan, just don't sign on to stay off. But if you want to talk about what correlations you might have, because we admittedly didn't research a lot of this. We thought it'd be a fun episode, just kind of wing this and see what we came up with. I was kind of curious how much football she knew because she wears that Packer jersey all the time, and I'm curious what she really knew.
Much. I am actually, admittedly, I am a fairly new fan to football. This will be my 4th season heavily watching it, but for years I just didn't like it. Didn't watch it. Baseball was about the only sport I watched, and then I was at Cedar Point in Ohio, which I go to quite a bit when there's not a fucking pandemic going on, and there was an Ohio State game on. And I asked person who I was with, I said, I'm like, can you please explain this game to me? And they did.
You don't watch Canadian football at all?
No, I don't. I hate CFL. I can't.
You know who the Babe Ruth of Canadian football is?
No.
Doug Flutie. You know where he went to college? Boston College. The second.
He was an Eagle?
He was an Eagle. He is the second best alumni to come out of that school.
Wow. Yes, second best. Yes, I know. For those that can't see, he's pointing to himself. Darren is a Boston College graduate.
For Boston. Yeah.
But anyway, so the game was explained to me and it clicked, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like a battle. So once I understood it, I just got full into it. I'm still learning the rules and about the teams and all that, and I'm still not 100% on everything that happens, but I thoroughly enjoy watching it. And
it's a great game, especially live. It is
been
fantastic experience. I've been a Patriots season ticket holder now for longer than I should be, to be honest. And unfortunately, with the stadium being shut down, I don't know if I'm going to get to go to a game in Foxborough this year. But it is a great take, especially these games on the roads to the Buffalo, Chicago, New York, Miami, Cleveland. And they're all fun places to go. But yeah, I think football is a great game. So I think it'll be a fun weekend. I think hopefully it starts off well. Hopefully, if your team is the Patriots, you have a great season. And I think
my team.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll see about the rest. But but good talk. I think it's fun. I think it's a good way to talk about this. Again, it's all about personalizing these guys and trying to point out their strengths and their weaknesses. And going into the football season, I thought it was a fun way to kind of compare the two and see if we can come correlations. I think that's pretty fun.
I think the other thing we could say too, because we are dropping this episode on Saturday and we're going to be doing our live on Sunday. So if you happen to be listening to this on Saturday, tweet at us, go on our Facebook page, go on our Instagram account, and let us know like what your picks would be. And you don't have to just stick with the teams that we did, or the generals. Let us know what you think. If you got another general or another team, then let us know, and we'll talk about it on the Facebook Live.
So coming attractions.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going to go back to our battles, and we're going to talk about the Maryland campaign. which is going to talk about Special Order 191. It's going to talk about South Mountain and talk about the Battle of Antietam.
Yep, and we are going to focus in on the Iron Brigade for that. So we are going to be looking
Hats.
at one
The
brigade.
Black Hats. We're going to talk about the great Black Hats Iron Brigade, led by the great John Gibbon.
Oh, I was reading in, I think it's Alan T. Nolan's book called The Iron Brigade, which is just a whole history of the brigade, which is awesome. He's an awesome author. I was reading that on the weekend. So reading up on South Mountain and all that.
That's going to be a fun talk. Because we talked, it was kind of the extension of the Manassas campaign we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago now, where it was that final bump on the road to Maryland. And so it's going to be, obviously it's not going to work out too well for the Confederacy. It's going to lead to the Emancipation Proclamation. It's going to lead to a lot of political upheaval in the North and the South. But I think it's a great battle to talk about. And if you've never been, you got to go.
Oh yeah,
you got to go to
amazing.
Antietam. You got to go to Antietam.
You got to go visit the Sunken Road when you're there too.
There's nothing better than being on the Sunken Road. Not even a question. It is fantastic. But prepare for it to rain, because every time I go, it rains every single time.
So that means on our road trip there, it's going to fucking rain.
Sunken Road's going to be totally wet. But the cornfield too. We'll have a good. I'm sure we'll have a good time.
Yeah, I was actually I mentioned this book a couple times now, I think on this episode, Fierce Glory by, get his name right, Justin Martin. Came out a couple years ago, and it's about Antietam, and it's one of those books about the battle that you're not going to get overwhelmed with details, but it also goes back to what Lincoln is doing at the time, and it talks, he gives a great overview of McClellan's life and of General Lee's life, and just he compares and contrasts them. So it's a really, really good book. I'm serious when I say that. I am also trying to enable people again too.
Do you work for Amazon? Is that what your deal is?
No.
I thought you worked for the county. You got some side gig. I've got a bookshelf full of books now that you've enabled me on. So
what happens when you hang out with the queen of the book enablers.
Oh gosh, but they're good books though. You never steer me wrong yet. That's a good one.
Not yet.
God. Well, anyway, so that's probably a good place to drop off. I think this is pretty well. So we look forward to talking about this again on Sunday when we do our Facebook Live. So if you're on Facebook, definitely check us out. If you're not, we are also on YouTube now. So you can see our smiling faces on YouTube.
And it's actually going to be a little bit different from the episode that's posted, because I don't edit this one, because I don't know how to edit video. So you could get a few outtakes in this one.
I don't think we had too many.
We didn't have any outtakes.
No, but I think it's great to check it out. So again, we appreciate everybody checking it out, because it's fantastic. It's humbling that anybody watches this. We just kind of did this to hang out and talk Civil War. We thought
exactly. We didn't know what to expect when we started this podcast. We're into episode 4 now, and we were like, well, whatever. We'll see how it goes. I mean, we already said we're going to continue to do this for as long as we can, basically, because you can never run out of enough things to talk about when it comes to Civil War.
It's a lot of stuff to do. So,
and if people watch it, great. And if not, well, whatever.
We're watching it. So anyway, happy birthday to the great Joshua Chamberlain. And 192
to John
and
Reynolds.
To John Reynolds. So 192, you never look so good. And Mary, we will look forward to talking to you soon. We will talk to you next time. So again, good night, everybody. Look forward to the next one. And until then, go Pats.
Go Pats and go Packers. We'll see you all again soon.
No Packers, just Pats.
Packers. Bye, everybody.
Peace out.